I would say the win for Ayuso is another one more mentally than the time gap. It's only 1 second, but again, he gets a little bit of time. Not much, but it's time on Roglič. And if Roglič has really good legs and he's in good position, he would never let that happen. So it's a bit of a mental victory of UAE over Red Bull and of Ayuso over Roglič, but it doesn't have a big impact on what's to come.
Everybody, welcome back to the Move Plus. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel. We are breaking down Stage 8 of the Giro d'Italia, which was won by Luke Plapp with Wilco Kelderman in second, Diego-Ulissi in third. Ulissi took the overall lead from Primož Roglič, or was gifted it, however you want to look at it, with Lorenzo Fortunato, his XDS-Astana teammate, moving into second, and then Roglič now 17 seconds back. And then we'll preview tomorrow's critical Stage 9, and we'll get Johan's take on how it's going to play out, who's going to win, and how it will affect the GC. First, I'm going to give us a little primer. Johan was busy today at the Jan Ullrich, the preamble to the Jan Ullrich Cycling Festival tomorrow in the Black Forest, so he didn't really catch a lot of the stage. So I will catch him up on the key details. Then we'll talk. I have a few questions for him about what happened and then why it happened. But the stage started. This was probably the hardest stage of the race so far, just because the break, it's a 197 kilometer long stage. The break doesn't go until about 110K to go. So it's almost a 90 kilometer fight for the breakaway, which is brutal because they're going all out that entire time. Interestingly, Mads Pedersen, one of the first riders out the front, puts a really impressive turn of work in until the first sprint at 147K to go. And then while this is happening, it's the washing machine effect behind. Riders are attacking. Riders are getting pulled in. Wout van Aert was quite active. Pedersen picks up max points at that sprint point, sits up. And the issue is all these moves are going. But if you're a team like Pulte Visit Malta, if you're not in the break, you're not allowed on the team bus. So all these moves are just going to get pulled back. Everyone knows Roglič wants to give the jersey up, so they know the breakaway is going to have a chance to stay away. It was almost like a lot of the tension of the race so far was being unleashed because the breakaway riders were thinking, now's the time. Big break finally goes with about 110K to go. Luke Plapp bridges up a little late, and that proved to be the winning move of the race. There was Wiesma was quite active. Two Wiesma riders, Dylan van Baarle, pushing the pace pretty hard. The problem is the break went, and then they hit the hardest climb of the day. It was like a 13-kilometer long climb right in the middle of the stage. Dylan van Baarle says this group's too big. They're never going to work together. So he's trying to break it up on the climb. Wilco Kelderman eventually ends up in the front split of that breakaway. Wiesma probably feels pretty good about it. Unfortunately, Luke Plapp bridges up to that move. And then Luke Plapp attacks, and it was impressive. He was in a massive gear, just like he was 45.6K to go, I believe, and he soloed from there. It was really an impressive move. Like, he looked to me, if you told me like that guy's going to win a Grand Tour someday, I'm not saying he is, but I would say that sounds about right. He looked that strong because he held off a chasing group, which was motivated because Wilco Kelderman was behind him with Diego-Ulissi, who was riding for the overall lead because his teammate Lorenzo Fortunato was with him at one point, and he was the highest on the GC in the breakaway, 2.5 minutes back on the race lead. The problem is Fortunato's dropped, and then Ulissi became the leader on the road, or the virtual leader. So Ulissi is working with Kelderman because he wants the pink jersey. They still can't pull in Plapp. Plapp wins with a 38-second gap. Kelderman and then Ulissi were in that group. Very strangely, Igor Arrieta from UAE, fourth, 1 minute and 22 back. And then interesting things kept being doled out to us because UAE takes the front, probably to try to keep Red Bull in the jersey. They're pressing the pace on some of the final climbs. Tom Pidcock is attacking with Juan Ayuso on the last climb back in the GC group, and then Juan Ayuso attacks into the finish line. He ends up getting 1 second on Roglič, who probably should have been right on his wheel. He looked quite easy pulling back to Ayuso, doesn't quite get back to him. But the end effect is Red Bull does not get the gap they wanted, I assume, because now they're only 17 seconds out of the race lead. They'll probably just have it back. I guess if everything goes well in the time trial, that can't be exactly what they wanted out of the stage. But Johan, before we get into like any of the I guess the moves within moves, the wheels within wheels. Like, what was your take on Luke Plapp winning the stage? He's a super talented rider. Shockingly, this was not only his first World Tour stage win, it was only his second win in his career outside of Australian National Championship. So it's been a long time coming for him. Very good rider. Like, yeah, I know he gets overused, but look, he's a classy rider. He looked very, very good off the front. I still can't believe he stayed away so easily.
Yeah, well, first of all, Spencer, apologies to you and to our viewers and our listeners. I haven't been able to watch the stage, but thank you for just bringing me up to speed with the play-by-play of events. So, I mean, I have a pretty good idea now of how the stage developed. Luke Plapp, great win. As you say, I think this guy has a huge engine. His lack of winning races in Europe for the moment, I have heard that he has some issues riding in the peloton. His background, he's a track rider, and especially individual pursuit and team pursuit. He's able to push, great watts, multiple Australian champion, time trial on the road. We all know that Luke Plapp is considered to be one of the big engines of the peloton, and strangely enough, hasn't won a lot of races outside of Australia. He's been a few times close. I've seen him already a few times in the Giro, precisely to be in second, third, was beaten by usually a smarter guy. I wouldn't say a stronger guy, but a smarter guy. And today was a display of power. He, as you mentioned, he bridged up to the break when everybody else was out of legs. And then he goes with considerable, 48 kilometers to go. That's very far from the finish to go from already a select group. I did see a flash of his attack on that climb. As you say, massive gears, big power. But it was clear that at that moment, I think he already dropped Bardet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
To drop Bardet on a climb, you have to be good legs, even if Bardet is, not at his best for the moment. But when he went, it was clear that everybody was dead. They all tried. Nobody could follow him. Even Kelderman couldn't follow him, who was, in my opinion, the guy that Visma had put forward to try to win the stage. And Kelderman is a very good rider. So it's nice to see Luke Plapp win a big race like this, especially if you consider, if I'm not mistaken, he's been dealing with quite a bit of injuries. And especially this year, he was in good shape, as usual, in Tour Down Under. It was 5th, 6th or something. And then for some reason, he had a crash, injured his wrist. I don't know if it was a fracture but he already had problems with his wrist before, the year before. I seem to remember somewhere that he had to have some kind of surgery to correct either this injury or an old injury, and he came into the game quite late. Then he won a stage in Greece in a smaller race. But for some reason, he couldn't really continue on that form. Had a bit of a disaster of a start because he crashed in the time trial on his own. He's a time trial specialist, and I know that he went into that time trial with big ambitions to do a top result. He crashed, had to recover from that, and now finally, after a week of racing, he gets that nice win. It was also nice to see him really speak very highly of Matt White, who, as we know, has left the team all of a sudden about a week ago, just before the Giro. I think Matt White was supposed to be at the Giro as the head DS. And Luke Plapp was very, very speaking very highly of Matt. His support he had from the beginning when he went to the Australian team, and now in the last year and a half when he had some struggles. So that was nice to see. I mean, as we all know, Matt White is one of my ex-riders on Postal, and I wish him all the best in the future after this surprising change of situation. But it was nice to see one of the top riders of Jayco-AlUla appraise Matt White and his impact and his influence he had on the team. But yeah, I mean, it was in the makings for a few years already. You know, this stage win in a Grand Tour with Luke Plapp, and now finally he gets it in a very spectacular way, because attacks from so far, not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah, no, he made it look like a tap in too. But I was thinking, when he attacked, I told my family, I was like, well, race is over. Like, he's got it. But then if you think about it, like 50K after a race that hard, that's not easy. Crazy fact about Luke Plapp, he's 24 years old. I mean, I've never seen a Palmares like this. He's 24. He had not won a professional race. Like, if we don't count national championships as a professional race, he hadn't won one until this year, but he had 3 career Australian road titles, which is a very good cycling country, and 3 career individual time trial titles from Australia. So that's really impressive. And just like, I mean, to sum up the good and the bad of Luke Plapp, I think it was last year at Milano Sanremo, I think he entered the Poggio. He entered Cipressa, maybe last wheel, obviously dropped, right? Because you can't, that's such a technical climb. You have to be placed well. Catches back on before the Poggio, and then his last wheel, and then he gets dropped, but it's just like, to be last wheel on those climbs coming down the road. I mean, you're putting out like race winning power to do that. And then he showed today, he does have that race winning power. I mean, I feel a little bad. Like, Visma clearly had a plan. Like, they did everything right, but nothing they could have done would have won them the stage, because Luke Plapp was just that strong. Like, they did as well as they could. If Plapp would have missed the move, Kelderman would have won, but Luke Plapp just too strong. Great. It's great for the team. Yeah. It was a little bittersweet about the Matt White situation, I felt.
Yeah. You know, I mean, also, I mean, speaking of Luke Plapp, I think if you would take a closer look at his results on the track in individual pursuit and stuff, and see the times he has produced there, that's the real proof of his big engine. He's been a super powerful velodrome rider, track rider. Yeah, I mean, if a guy like that, if things are right for once, and they have a good day, then they go and just doesn't look back, and did 48 kilometers. So that's basically 12 individual pursuits after each other of 4 kilometers.
Yeah, just stack 12 IPs. Actually, kind of reminds me a little bit of our colleague Bradley Wiggins, just that type of pure track power unleashed on the road. I don't know if he'll go on to the same success, but just a few odds and ends. Mads Pedersen, after today, he has 153 points in the points classification. Second place is 59. So he's almost wrapped it up. As long as he stays in this race and stays healthy, he will win the points jersey. KOM, a little bit. Lorenzo Fortunato continues to add. He has 98. Juan Ayuso, 50 in second place. So it's not, the book is not closed on that. Ayuso has more points actually than I would expect at this point, but just to have that be our transition to go back to the GC group further down the road. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, we didn't see it. We didn't see as much of it. Maybe I should have had the multi-camera view on, but we saw a lot of the breakaway. The GC group, they had Jens Voigt call, I think he called Ralph Denk mid-stage and asked him if they're trying to give the jersey away. Ralph Denk confirmed, yes, they are trying to give the jersey away. But it got complicated because I think they wanted to give it to Fortunato. They had it was almost a 6-minute gap at a certain point. But Fortunato gets dropped from the front group in the breakaway and is minutes behind the front group. So at a certain point, it was touch and go about whether they were going to be able to successfully give the jersey away. At a certain point, it looked like they were going to give it to Fortunato, and Fortunato would hold it through the time trial, which would have been ideal because then you don't have it for that monotonous second week.
Yeah.
But then Bahrain, I think they start to think, Red Bull might not get rid of this. They go start going to the front, setting a little pace back in the GC group, and then UAE comes to the front, setting a pace, complicates it, and then they only have it by 17. They only have given it away by 17 seconds. If you were a director here, Johan, like what would your plan have been going into this, and would you be happy?
That's not a great situation. You lose it, but it's as if you haven't lost it. Because with the 2 stages now, I mean, with the gravel stage tomorrow, it's going to be nervous. You need to be in front. You need to have your team make tempo to make sure that Primož, and especially Primož, is in front on those gravel sectors, and then the time trial. There's no way Ulissi and Fortunato are going to keep that slight advantage on Primož. So it's basically back to square one. I think the plan was to get rid of the jersey, but as you say, probably to Fortunato a lot better. He was the best placed in GC, and it also shows that these battles for these other classifications, like the mountains jersey, takes its toll. Like Fortunato is in great shape, but he's been sprinting, he's been going in attacks day after day, and then you come into a situation where there's a few strong guys in the breakaway, and finally you just don't have the legs to follow the strongest guys anymore. If you look at the composition of the breakaway initially, you would say, okay, ideal. This is an Italian rider in good shape. He can go up decently uphill, but he's not a threat for GC in the final week. XDS are going to try to defend this jersey every day they can. And so, that didn't turn out the way they wanted it to turn out. It's still XDS, but it's Ulissi, and it's not enough time. Okay, you can try. I mean, it doesn't always work the work out the way you think it's going to work out, and nobody could foresee that Fortunato would not be able to follow the first 3-4 riders of the stage today.
Well, there's this climb. It's called the Sassotetto. I assume that's like close to the Gran Sasso, same region of the country. Big climb in the middle of the stage. Fortunato's first over. It gets 40 KOM points, which is a lot. And I think that just sapped him. And it's like we were kind of talking about that yesterday, where these riders who are going for the KOM, it's hard for them to contest the stage. I wouldn't say disaster. I mean, he could always slow pedal the time trial, I guess. Roglič could. He'd get out of the jersey if he did that. Just cede a few minutes to Ayuso. Then they don't have to worry about holding
never going to happen. Never going to happen. I mean, no. I hope you're joking.
Yeah. I was thinking of like really dumb tweets I could send out and be pretending to be serious. I mean, that was one of them that he could, just give it away in the time trial. What's the big deal? Yeah.
No, I mean, their plan was to not defend the jersey, but didn't turn out the way they hoped. But hey, it's not the end of the world.
What did you think of? What if I told you Tom Pidcock is attacking on the final climb, 5 minutes behind the race lead? What would you say about that?
That's weird.
I didn't get it. Yeah.
Is he trying to test his legs for tomorrow? I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me, especially if you know that the stage win is gone. It's hard for me to think that Pidcock really believes that he's going to be top in GC. And tomorrow's a great stage for him. So I don't really understand why he was attacking at the end.
Maybe they thought they won't chase me, but something interesting happened because Juan Ayuso was right on his wheel. Roglič was further back, like in the group, maybe caught a little off guard, like, whoa, what's going on here? And then we get to the final kilometer and we don't see a lot of it because we're just focused on, it's like classic, like, oh, the breakaway is coming in, all these riders are coming in, GC group is coming in. And you see Juan Ayuso come to the final corner with a few hundred meters to go, like he's the guys coming down the straight at Tulsa Tough, Brady Village, Criterium, like flying through the corner, and then just starts sprinting as hard as he can out of the saddle. Has kind of a sizable gap. Roglič is on the wheel of Ciccone, probably should have been on the wheel of Ayuso, but we don't know. Maybe Ayuso came from deep in the field and it caught him by surprise. But Roglič does a pretty good job. He never gets out of the saddle. He just is kind of in the saddle doing his Roglič spin. Gets close to Ayuso, but he does lose a second to him. Ayuso gains a second sprinting for 11th place. you think, okay, I guess mathematically that's good. To go by my own code, I did say every second could count here, so let's chalk that up. Good, you got a second. That's a big old effort, though. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of Tadej Pogačar 2023 Tour, where he's like, sprinting for 11th place, 12th place to beat Jonas Vingegaard, but no time bonuses available. Like, that's not usually when you want to be using a sprint effort. Like, what did you make of that?
Well, obviously, I think Ayuso, when he went, I don't know if the same situation was like yesterday, that he saw Roglič a bit out of position. He would obviously have his attack was intended to have more seconds, 4 or 5 seconds. I would say the win for Ayuso is another one more mentally than the time gap. It's only 1 second, but again, he gets a little bit of time, not much, but it's time on Roglič. And if Roglič has really good legs and he's in good position, he would never let that happen. So it's a bit of a mental victory of UAE over Red Bull and of Ayuso over Roglič, but it doesn't have a big impact on what's to come.
I mean,
it's the second day in a row. It's the second day in a row that Roglič is not able to follow Ayuso.
But true or false, the Giro d'Italia will be decided by sprints on stages 7 and 8. It's probably false, correct?
No, false. Yeah.
And then I think we had this conversation off mic, but if you assume energy is finite, we were talking about this on the show. Any energy you spend in this first week, if you don't get something for it, it's not well spent. So that, I mean, the odd
he got a second. He got a second.
Yeah, he got a second.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about actually. I think these intermediate bonuses probably are literally more of like think when like Ayuso or Del Toro came in on the intermediate sprint in front of Ayuso, that actually would be a better way to be giving Ayuso seconds, to not have that happen. But an interesting thing that almost happened is it almost meant Roglič was stuck in the jersey, because it was tight enough at that point, and Ayuso surging, Pidcock surging on the final climb, Ayuso surging in the final, almost ate away the gap's advantage, the break's advantage, to the point where it almost stuck Roglič back in the jersey. I don't even know if they knew that was a possibility, or if they were thinking.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, you can't calculate that precisely in the final of a stage. But listen, it's another confirmation that Ayuso is in great shape, that UAE is very present in the front of the race all the time with several riders, and that Roglič is a little bit on his own, except for Pellizzari. I haven't seen the stage, but I assume Pellizzari was the only guy in the final with Roglič, right?
Yeah, and it's just like yesterday, he was there. And he looks good, but he looks green. Sometimes almost like I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't say that in like a mean way. Just like yesterday, it was like, okay, I'm here, Roglič. Like, what should I do? Which makes sense, because he's 21 years old and he has not been on a big team before. Also, what if I told you UAE put a rider in the breakaway, Igor Arrieta, and he was riding hard even when the wind was up the road.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully understand that.
No, I don't understand either, Spencer. It makes no sense. Okay, I did hear Arrieta's interview after the stage. It was not the purpose. It was not the plan. It's possible, especially if there's big groups that you're following the moves and that you're in it by accident. I would say, sometimes people have difficulties understanding. Oh, I'm in the break and I didn't want to be in the break, but I'm in it anyway. It does happen. Right. If your job is to follow the moves to make sure that there's no big groups going, and all of a sudden you're in it, and then it's up to what the decision has to be made. This is a young rider. You also want to give them certain opportunities in certain stages. If you look at the composition of the breakaway, it's kind of hard to imagine that Igor Arrieta was going to win the stage with these snipers present with lots of experience for stage wins. So you can be in it, but in this case, I think the UAE should maybe have called him back, or otherwise have him sit on, because it's a young rider. The effort of today's stage, which was a hard stage, and they have been a long time out there, and the guy has raced full gas in the final. He will feel that in the recovery. Maybe tomorrow he's not fully recovered when they really need him. It's a possibility. So thinking long term, I am not a fan of sending a guy in the break if you're the team of one of the big favorites and you kind of are almost sure he's not going to win the stage.
Yeah. I mean, he's exactly the type of rider they need to do work. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of big names. Igor Arrieta should be first in the list of, are you ready to do your job today? I'd also say, like, opportunity schmopportunity. Like, we're here trying to slay a vampire. Like, Primož Roglič, it's impossible to beat this man. Like, this guy wins more than anyone. Like, he could win. He could make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Like, he's such a good bike racer. Like, we all need to be focused on beating this guy. Like, we can't be going in breakaways, doing our own thing. Like, we're in a dogfight here. So I thought it was a strange, maybe it was an accident, like you say, and they just decided to roll with it.
Yeah, that's most likely what happened. I mean, especially if you hear him after the stage, he said, it was not the plan, I was in it. And then once they saw the situation, then they gave him the free card to go for it. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this tactics.
Well, do you have anything else on today, Johan, before we move on to preview super important stage 9?
I mean, the only thing I can say is that a stage like today and yesterday and tomorrow, so it accumulates the fatigue. These are 3 not very easy stages. It's not mountain stages, but they're hard. And this is difficult to recover from. So yesterday's effort over a very hard stage, today, hard stage, especially with the fast speeds in the beginning of the stage, could have their toll tomorrow for certain riders. Tomorrow's a really important stage. I'm not expecting huge differences. You know, it's there's a few sectors of Strade Bianche. It's not Strade Bianche. Let's be clear. It's not Strade Bianche, and it's not the same peloton as Strade Bianche. And usually what happens is, you can see it also sometimes in the Tour, when there's a stage with cobbles or some sectors of Paris-Roubaix. It's never Paris-Roubaix. It's a completely different race. And tomorrow will be the same thing, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is really different in a way that's kind of even hard to articulate. But just to move on to tomorrow, well, let's take a quick break to hear from some partners, and then we will preview stage 9. And Johan's going to tell us who's going to win it. All right, Johan, so stage 9 from Gubbio to Siena. I assume this is in Tuscany, 181 kilometers. The big things you need to know. There are 4 gravel sectors, maybe a little bit more, but 3 big ones. One of them, the first one, is downhill, pretty interesting. And the third one is like 10 kilometers long, net uphill, quite a bit net uphill. The favorites I will list in a second, but we should say it's going to be incredibly important for GC favorites to be at the front, because anything could happen. And then it finishes on, we were discussing if this has ever happened at the Giro. I don't remember it ever happening, but it finishes in the Piazza del Campo, which is where Strade Bianche finishes. The reason this is important is because that climb is seriously hard up to the Piazza. Like, that's I think it's about 1 kilometer long. I don't know how steep it is, but it's steep enough that Wout van Aert fell off his bike with cramps the first time he did this race. So, it's quite difficult, and it is cobbled. It's not easy. You really have to be well positioned going into it. People will be nervous about this day. This day could be quite significant for the GC. The favorites on Bet365 to win, as you would imagine, Tom Pidcock plus 450, big heavy favorite. Mateusz Wadzek plus 900, Wout van Aert plus 1,000, Mads Pedersen plus 1,200, Juan Ayuso plus 1,400, Isaac Del Toro plus 1,400, Primož Roglič plus 1,800, Pello Bilbao plus 1,800, Egan Bernal plus 2,500, Eduardo Zambonini plus 2,500, Giulia Ciccone plus 3,300, Christian Skroni plus 4,000, Quinten Hermans plus 4,000. I have not heard his name in a minute, but I think the win probably comes from one of those. But Johan, how do you think this is going to play out, and who's going to win? Tough questions.
As I said before, Spencer, it's not Strade Bianche, right? I know, and even if we all know the final climb into Siena this is also not the same as at the end of a one-day classic, Strade Bianche, which is now more than 200 kilometers with a lot of gravel sectors, and everybody arrives dead at that last climb. This is completely different. Personally, I don't expect huge problems for the GC guys. The last climb, it's not like yesterday, for example, the last kilometer of that climb. It's not as steep, so I don't think that there will be big differences. This is not a climb, for example, where I can see Ayuso do what he did yesterday. So I think it's more a stage where it's going to be very nervous. It could be amongst the guys from GC, especially because the gravel sectors are long. The peloton is going to be nervous if there's a breakaway. Only by the stress in the peloton, the speed will go up and they will not be very far ahead, I think. If you look, as you said, the first gravel sector, in my opinion, is the most important one. It's 8 kilometers long. You come into it downhill, and then so that's going to be very fast, very nervous. And then it goes uphill. And then the last gravel sector, it's only 2.3 kilometers long, but there's some steep parts in there. I also have to mention, Spencer, I am not a fan of these things in Grand Tours. I know people want to see spectacle and they want to see, different kind of racing, but this is nervous for everybody, the teams, the mechanics. The choice of equipment, for example, is a difficult one because there's 3 long sectors, but are they really going to be decisive in the race? So what do you do with tire pressure? The majority of the race is on good roads, and then you have 3 sectors of around 9 kilometers. So it's a lot of stress, and somebody can lose the Grand Tour on a stage like this because of bad luck. So I'm not a fan of this. But hey, that's what people want to see. I'm going to choose Vácek again to win the stage tomorrow. I think he can win in both scenarios, even if it's all together. He's strong. He can. This kind of course is way within his capacities, and he can win from a breakaway. He's my favorite to win tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a really good pick. Plus 900. So the obvious one, Tom Pidcock. I do not like this pick because he's close enough in the GC. I don't think he can get in the breakaway. I think people don't trust his intentions at this race, and he's not a guy you'd want to give time to voluntarily because you don't know what's going to happen, especially if you're going for podium or you're going for top 5 and you get that whole situation where people start chasing people that might challenge their top 10. That's a real thing, especially with points on the line. Also, I frankly think if he comes to the line with Vácek, he does not win. I think Vácek is stronger than him. I think he could beat him on that final climb. Wout van Aert, good today. I don't know if he's good enough to win. I'm going to go, this might be crazy, Mads Pedersen, plus 1,200. I think Pedersen, he looked really good today off the front, getting those points, just like made it look clinical. That final climb could be a little too hard for him, but I guess it just depends. You don't have to be, if you're running from a bear, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You have to be faster than the person you're against. So we don't know who he's coming to the line with. I think if he comes to the line with the right group of people, he could win this at plus 1,200. And he's a very powerful rider. I think he won't be so bothered by the gravel sections.
Yeah, and he could also be in a breakaway.
Yeah, and no one's going to care if he is, which is the important part.
So you're realizing, Spencer, we're picking the little Trek guys all the time.
Well, there's an expiration date on this. They will get tired eventually. It might be around tomorrow. So we are playing with fire. Today, it makes me a little uneasy actually today, where it's like no little Trek in the breakaway. Was that intentional? Like, were they saving up, or are they already running out of energy because of everything they put in so far?
Yeah, could be. There. Yeah, could be. I'm sure that they focused on the first week of this Giro. We're already past the week now, so it's going to end at some point. But anyway, even if they don't win anything anymore for the rest of the Giro, and Pedersen, if except accident or illness, will most likely win the points jersey, and they won 3 stages already, so their Giro is a big success already. Second choice, I think I'm going to go for Pidcock. He's not going to be in the break, but if it's all together, I think that the gravel sectors, he will have no problem. Let's not forget, he was the only guy who could follow Tadej Pogačar and Strade Bianche until he couldn't follow anymore. But and that last climb should not be a problem for him. He won't get dropped there. Question is, can he win in a sprint? But I think we have to consider and value the talent of Tom Pidcock. He's a classy rider and has a huge talent, so he's going to be my second choice to win the stage.
Well, the thing is, let's imagine that scenario. I don't know if he beats the UAE boys. That's my big concern. So my wild card, Isaac Del Toro plus 1,400, only because I think they're getting way too cute with this race, and they're going to say, well, Juan Ayuso won a stage, so it's now Del Toro's chance to win a stage, and probably Del Toro or probably Ayuso should go for it because the time bonus. But both these guys look so powerful to the point where if I was working for Red Bull, Bora, I would be having nightmares about how powerful they look. I think either of them could, because it's that steep climb and then it kind of like flattens out. Like both of those guys could really do some damage where it flattens out going into the Piazza. I'm going to pick Del Toro. I think he's really, and this stage is kind of perfect for him if he can get through the gravel. One thing I heard about Mats Pedersen yesterday, this is from Brian Nygaard, so he would know. Apparently Pedersen, after he wasn't selected for the Tour, said, it's going to suck for the team because I'm going to win all the stages. They're going to lose so much money on all the stages I win at the Giro d'Italia that they're going to have to pay me in bonuses. So
okay.
he's motivated to win.
Good
attitude.
Good attitude. I like that.
Yeah. But I think Del Toro, if he wins a stage, I mean, this one, obviously has Pidcock written all over it, but I just don't think he's more powerful than these two UAE guys at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Vácek.
Vácek. And Pidcock. I don't know. I don't fully understand if I was him, I'd be saying like,
I personally think, Spencer, if it's still together and Pedersen and Vácek are there, Pedersen sacrifices himself for Vácek to try to win the stage.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. I'm switching Vácek, better climber, probably. He was even, I was rewatching yesterday's stage. He was there until like a K to go. So very good climber. Well, not, as you say, this is not nearly as hard as yesterday's stage, so he won't be as bothered by it. Yeah. Anything else about, and you're not a fan of it? I think I'm getting older because I think I'm becoming less of a fan of these stages too. They feel a little bit like a gimmick. I used to love them. I am curious to watch this, and I think it will be an exciting stage.
Spencer, I repeat myself every single time when a stage like that comes up in a Grand Tour, but I would invite everybody to ask around in the peloton, riders and teams and staff, what they would prefer. And 90% would say, oh no, we don't want stages like this in a Grand Tour, especially the teams who have a GC ambitions, because the risk is so high that something happens and you lose everything you've been working for months. And we're talking about road racing, man. This is gravel.
I will say, do you know what the most popular stage was from the Tour last year? The one like everyone was buzzing about? Yeah, the Trois stage on stage. Yeah, the gravel stage.
Yeah, I understand. It is spectacular. It's nice. But it's nice for those who are not in it.
Well, can you imagine the staff too? It's the equipment
crazy.
Would be a pain.
Yeah. And every time you had either a cobble sector or a gravel sector, you're first of all, with the car, you're helpless. There's nothing you can do. You're far behind. There's dust. You don't see anything, and you just hope that they don't call your numbers with mechanical problems or crashes. It is very, very stressful.
Yeah, I mean one of these guys in the GC will get a flat on a gravel sector, and it will be a problem.
Yeah,
I assume that team cars are ordered Astana's first.
Yeah,
Red Bull second.
The GC and the up and in reverse.
Yeah, which does matter. But I guess the big ones, UAE, Red Bull,
and
Bahrain.
also logistically for teams, and especially because these gravel sectors are so long, they will have people, staff members covering these gravel sectors, and probably on certain sectors at several points. One in the middle and one at the end, to have people there with wheels, at least with wheels. Actually, I don't know if you're allowed to take a wheel from the side of the road in a Grand Tour. I haven't checked the rules, but something.
That's a good question.
Something tells me that it's not allowed.
It used to be
in a one day race. It is, but I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure.
Well, let's watch for that. Now I'm curious to see if there's anyone out there. But I think it will be exciting. I guess is it ethical? We could debate forever. But Johan, thanks for jumping in. And just programming note: we won't have a show tomorrow. There will be a regular The Move on the rest day on Monday, and then we'll be back to our normal schedule after that.
So The Move on the rest day, which will be a recap of week 1.
Yes.
In this case, the first 9 stages.
Probably an emphasis on tomorrow's stage, unless it's a total snoozer. I guess we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It will be us explaining to George what has happened so far in this race. All right. Well, thanks, Johan, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.